Hello, hello. I am live. 1 second. I'll get Azra. Hi, everybody. Hi, Rebecca. Nice to see you. Hi. I'm waiting for Azra to join my today's guest. Hey. We're talking today about homeschooling in the UK.
Hello. Oops, let's turn.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, happy to be here. Oops, let me just
Yeah, the
fix
settings,
my.
right? Yeah.
Is it a bit too bright?
No, it's a
It's
little bit,
okay, right?
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, looks good to me. You look
Yeah.
you look
How are you?
beautiful.
Thank you.
Azra, thank you for coming on with me live here today to this topic. To everyone who doesn't know me or you, I'd like to introduce myself in the first place. My name is Irene Kainz. I'm living in Austria. And I have a 12-year-old son who never went to school. And I'm also a body worker. I'm doing shiatsu, and I'm a mentor for parents for a free and self-led life. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm here for, and what my passion is about. And I'm doing these live talks on the subject of homeschooling or unschooling, or also deschooling sometimes, once a
Yeah.
week. And I try to have international guests like you. First time I have someone from the UK, and sometimes I do them in German, and sometimes I do them in English. So welcome, and thank you that you're here with me today. Azra, I'd love you to introduce yourself as well. Who are you? What are you doing? And yeah, so people can get to know you.
Okay, so yes, I'm Azra, and I tend to work with mum entrepreneurs, CEOs, and coaches, and I help them unleash a new level of vitality so they can feel more confident and calm and sensual in their bodies and businesses. But I'm also a mum, and I happen to be a single mum. I've been a single mum since my son was a year, well, 6 months old. So that's coming up to 15 years, 16 years now.
Wow.
Um, and I believe that my children, my sons, have shaped my journey in a way that has been quite magical. And I believe they have a huge role in my growth, in my evolution. And it was when I hit rock bottom at a point in my life where I decided to really reclaim my health, my energy and vitality so I can support them and be the best mum for them. But in the process, I actually also discovered that becoming the best version of myself outside of being a mum also brought this greater depth to my journey. And yes, so we entered the, homeschooling or deschooling. It's coming up to a year and a half now, so it's coming up to 2 years. And so my kids did go to school for a
Mm-hmm.
while, but then we had a great shift, and we have been on a new pathway ever since.
Oh, so cool. And I'm seeing, hey, Manny, hey, you're here. There are so many um,
Hello.
beautiful women already here. Hello, hello. Nice. I'm so happy you have.
Hi, Molly.
Yeah, I'm a homeschooling mom as well, Manny. Yeah, super. If you have any questions, please let us know right in the comments. We will look at them every once in a while and see if we get them answered.
Yes.
Yeah, so my first and most important question to you, since you are living in the UK, for me as a mom in Austria, very interested in this topic is how is the legal situation on homeschooling or home education in the UK? Can you tell us a little bit about this? How can I imagine that?
Okay, so when it became clear for us that this was the pathway, and I looked into it, I had to look into obviously the legality of it and the regulations of it because I didn't know anything. And homeschooling, home education was very foreign to me. So yes, it is in the UK as it stands, it is legal to home educate or homeschool your child. And you know, so what I did was deregister him from the school and then inform the council that we were starting to homeschool. And so I wrote a letter, filled in a form, sent it over to them, and that's about it really. Then it took several months later where we had an assigned caseworker that sent me an email and a letter saying, you know, this is, you know, we've been informed that you're homeschooling, etc., etc. And so every year they require a report from me about what we're doing, and that's it. Otherwise, it is you are entitled to homeschool and home educate your child in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
As far that's been my experience.
That sounds awesome to me. And but what I'm hearing you saying is that you were not familiar with that topic. Did you know any families before you decided for your son and yourself that this is your new path now? Did you know anyone else before to do that, or how is it? Is it very common? Do you know people? Do you know families?
Yes, I've heard of families before that were home educating and homeschooling, but for me it felt quite foreign, I'll be honest. Like I didn't know, you know, how it was done, etc. But for us, when lockdown happened and things changed a lot with the school systems and it all turned into this online space, we started, you know, what I noticed in my son, he started becoming unhappy. He wasn't enjoying it. But if you ask me if I was to be really honest, ever since he started secondary school, I was picking up the vibe that he wasn't quite fitting in. And what I would get was, you know, he's not putting effort into his work. He's not doing this, doing that. And so it started to be a bit like, what is going on here? So I started feeling into that more. And then when lockdown happened and we started looking at other alternatives, that's when I informed myself about, you know, what homeschooling and home education meant, what we can do, and what were the options. And it was around that time where we made a decision.
Your son is 13, is this correct? Your homeschooling
He
son.
He is almost 15 now.
Oh, you started out your homeschooling journey with 13, this like 1.5 years ago. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how did you observe our path? How is it done with you? What do you do when you homeschool?
Okay, yeah, great question. So what felt right for us at the beginning, because this was it was a big move for a 13 and a half year old, and for me too, like to get used to it and to understand what to integrate. But we kept it really simple. The first, I would say, 8 to 9 months, I just allowed him to find himself. And to really observe and come back to what is he passionate about, what does he want. And I think I have role modeled that to him throughout his childhood anyway, so it didn't take long for him to pick up, you know, what do I want to do. So we didn't do much. I just left him to it. He is a very self-led. He learns things when he wants to. He researches. And what we would do is have debates, healthy, constructive debates, or we would, whatever topic it was, it would naturally turn into this exchange of information, opinions. What do you think about that? What would this look like from this perspective? So that's what we did for a good, probably 7 to 8 months. And then we discovered an online platform where he wanted to join, where he would meet with other children across the globe. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention any names here, school names or academy names, but
Sure.
yeah. So there is this really amazing. It's called. Oh my God! Wait, it's gone over my head now. Ah, ah. So, gee, it will come back to me.
Yeah.
But it's something that, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's something that Elon Musk actually set up.
Oh,
So
really?
he opened his, so he felt that there was the education was missing the most important components like collaboration and teamwork and thinking collaboratively as a team and communicating that. And
Nice.
problem solving and getting creative on solving a problem. And so my son did that online once a week for approximately, I don't know, for about a year afterwards. And then he grew out of it. And so it was quite a fun, creative learning environment. The other thing that we did, my son is really passionate about cars and engines and rally driving. So we would watch historical programs on YouTube about cars, like how did cars come into play, what was the history. And then if you think about it, when a child is passionate about a subject and you can devise the history and the geography and everything around it, you actually have, what I have seen is that we naturally started dipping into different facets. So that, for an example, we came to an episode where he learned about what happened to the economy around fuel and why the fuel prices went up and why there was bankruptcy. And so then he would research something else and something else. And so pretty much self-led. At this point, he is actually working on his GCSEs because he's decided that he wants to go to an academy for
GCSE. Can you explain that, what that term is?
Yes, so basically they're like the basic requirements for the basic requirements to get a job or for an employment is that you need to have English and maths, especially as at a certain level you need to score a certain level. So and then you can add extra things on top like science or geography or whatever, depending on the pathway that you're choosing. Now, in schools, they tend to do a lot more GCSEs, but because of the homeschooling opportunity, and the pathway he is choosing, he's only picking 3 subjects that he wants to do. So he works with a tutor, so we do have a little bit of structure around that. But outside of that, he's pretty much self-led and he does his own research. And it's been fascinating. I would say that his ability to think more constructively and have more critical thinking and bring things to his life that he wants to pursue, that has expanded so fast since we've been on this sort of homeschooling journey, if you want to call it.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So since home education is a quite common thing in your country, I guess you don't have or I say it differently, here, since it's, I mean, it's kind of legal here, you know. I mean, there's a certain situation, but it's definitely not common in Austria or in German-speaking countries. So
Right.
when a child is at home and not at school, there are definitely a lot of people who have questions about that, and are maybe even worried about the child. Do you experience anything like that? Like socializing is one of the topics usually, or how does the child will ever get a job? You're still here. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if I'm losing you.
Oh, no, I'm still
If
here.
socializing, friends, how will he be or the child will be prepared for a life, for a job, um for a
Yes.
professional life, things like that. Do you know those worries? Do you have worries like that in your environment, people around you?
Yes, I did experience that. I mean, I had that experience firsthand with my own family,
Mm-hmm.
you know. It was like, because nobody in my family has done this before. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, how's he going to get a job? What's his social life is going to be? And I have also had that expressed to me amongst other parents that have their children in school. Um, and to be honest, at the beginning, that did create some kind of concern for me as well. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to navigate this? But actually, when I started looking into it, it's not as daunting as you think. And I discovered that there are thousands of families in the UK that homeschool, home educate for different reasons. I know families that do this now. I'm connected to them in various groups. I've met a couple of them, and their children are thriving. There's nothing, they're not missing out on anything. There's, meetups you can go to. There's um, so my son still, he goes to martial arts, so he's got people he connects from there. He's got people he connects from the neighborhood. So this, I believe they're myths. They're myths
Mm-hmm.
that if a child doesn't go to school, their social life is affected. Well, when you think about it, when a child is in school, the way they socialize is under a very controlled
Mm-hmm.
environment. And so they can only socialize in a way that meets the rules, if you want to call it, or the regulations of what the environment imposes,
Mm-hmm.
if we want to word it that way. But actually, the whole world is your environment. You can
Yes.
socialize anywhere with
Yes.
anybody, providing you know what type of people you want to mix with. What does social interaction mean to the child itself? I mean, some children are social, some children are less social, for an example. Or I know from my son, he likes to socialize with young people his age where he can share they have a common theme, or they can have meaningful conversations together. So I have not noticed any regression in his social life whatsoever. If not, because he's a happier, excuse me, because he's happier, I think the social life has expanded more.
Mm. Nice. What
Yes.
are there other benefits you found from those past 1.5 years? Like anything else you see, a development you guess that you wouldn't have seen maybe if he was still at school?
Yes. So one thing that came up just now is when he was at school, I would get this. Have you done your homework? Like homework. And, I'm not a mum that pressures their child to do homework, but then it will come from the teachers. Oh, he's not done his homework. He's not done this. He's not done that. Well, what I'm noticing right now, although he's working with a tutor on maths and English, he's getting things done.
Mm.
Because
So,
the choice is coming from him. He knows he's got a clear, vision of where that pathway is taking him, and because he's happy to do the work. I believe when a child is happy and they are living on, they're living their natural pathway. I've just noticed my battery's low and it's going to disconnect if I don't move. Let me just put this on my, excuse me,
no
on
problem.
my PC. There we go, sorted. So he's more focused.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he's happier,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he's more driven to get things done. Whereas at school, it would be like a chore, have you done this? And, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a shift. What else am I seeing in him? Our relationship has improved.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yes, yes, our relationship has improved because I don't know, I somehow feel like the pressure of the school is not there between us.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Since in Austria we have this requirement of an exam once a year when you do homeschooling.
Right.
We have experienced every year, the weeks before this exam, that the pressure in our family is rising. And
Yeah.
I found myself stepping into this role you just described from a schooling mom, like, have you done this? Why don't you do this? And put pressure on him, even though I personally I'm not really sure of all those topics that he needs this. It's just what I have learned that we need to learn, or children need to learn, or we need to know as people in our society. And how I learned it, I find myself passing it on to him, even though I was not really sure I wanted it. Not both ways, not in the way I did it, nor the topic it was about. And this is something that I'm seeing a lot happening in this world, and this is why I'm asking this question and raising this question and raising this topic. Can we do this differently, or do we really want to
Yes.
do this like this? You know?
Well, ag- well, I mean, I will only speak from my experience with my son. So when my son was at primary, he would sometimes say to me, "Why do I need to do this homework?"
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, "Well, so the teacher can see, what what you don't know, and so that he or she can support you better." That's how I would put it. But then he would turn around and say to me, um, "I'm going to forget this next year."
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I would say yeah, he's very bright, you know, and I would then not, I couldn't find anything to say to him because he was telling the truth.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Yes.
So, now that he's grown up more, it's like we can have more, more, I'd say, adult discussions. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, what's happening, Mum, is like we're repeating information that we are not going to use.
Mm-hmm.
So, providing, a child's pathway, if it's to become a maths professor, then of course they're going to require a different pathway. If a child's passion is to become a teacher of geography is going to require a different pathway. So when I look at my son's passion, which is all to do with mechanical engineering and cars, and the way he thinks and the way he sees things does not require him to load himself with all this information, because if information is just information and it's not utilized in a way where it empowers and helps one grow, and it's not utilized, and it's just information.
Absolutely.
So that would be my answer to that. My answer would be, can we do this, can we do this differently? Yes, of course we can.
Yeah. So actually my question was like, you kind of answered it already, but I was interested now in how does your son, or what's the vision of your son for his life? Does he has an outline of that already? And do you want to even share this publicly? This is another question. You don't have to do this. I'm asking this because I think I'm not quite sure about this, but I think I'm observing with children who are not in school and for a longer time, they tend, in my observation, they tend to get a clearer view on who they are and what they're here for and what they're supposed to do and what they therefore want to do.
Yes. Yeah.
So how is this with your son? Like, he probably wants to do something with cars, or what is it?
Yes, he's known that ever since he was 11. 10, 11. And for sure, when he came out of the school environment, and we had that period where I just allowed him to be and shake off things, in his field and in his mind. And because he's more, he spends time alone. Like, he likes to spend time alone, and he thinks, that our children can think. We need to, I needed to trust that he was thinking for himself. And so for sure, yes, the clarity came. He has now a greater sense of what he wants to do and how he's going to do it. And, I'm there to guide him.
That's so beautiful.
I'm there to guide him.
I love the sentence you wrote in your post today.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yes. And because he knows that, he's a lot happier, because when you know what you want, and we know this from our personal development, when you know what you want and you have clarity, then all that's left is to align yourself with it and take the actions. And of course, it's never a perfect journey. There's ups and downs and times where you feel like you want to give up, and all those things come. And it will come for him too. It's not going to be a perfect journey, but he has a sense of, he's very self-referral. He knows what he wants and what is required of him. And yes, when we came out of the school system, that became a lot clearer for him.
And did this had any effects onto his friendships? Because I assume that his friends still are in school, or did he gain new friends? And how did this affect the friendships? Like, he stepped out from school, the others stayed there?
Yes, that's a good question. So he's still friends with his friends from school, and they have like a group chat. They chat. He sometimes goes around to the houses. They come round. It's not all the time or very common, but he has stayed connected with them. And from what I'm hearing, from my son, some of his friends actually feel like he did the best thing for himself and that
Mm-hmm.
he's a lot happier. He looks a lot happier. And I think one or two of his friends feel like they wish that they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel pressure to stay in the school environment. So it's not affected his friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, it's actually brought, for them to talk about something. They talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. So he shares what he's doing, how it's going for him. And there's an exchange of sharing and connection.
Oh, that's also so beautiful. Thank you for all those sharings. This is so um, insightful. And what effects did it have on you?
Of course, yes. I mean, it did. Okay, so for me, I had a period where I felt like my space was invaded
Mm-hmm. I can, I can,
because,
I can imagine that.
yes, no, we need to talk
Sure.
about the realities of
Yeah,
things.
sure.
And I found it like, oh gosh, he's always there, and I don't get time to be home alone because I'm somebody that needs to spend time alone. And yeah, it's even in my human design, it's everywhere. Like I find myself when I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
But then I needed to step back and think, okay, so we have now decided to go on this journey, and I needed to find different ways for me to meet that need,
Mm-hmm.
of alone time. So that was one of the difficulties around the changes that I've navigated. So the other thing would be that there's also, of course, costs and expenses for providing, paying for his tutor at the moment. So that was something else I needed to factor in and work around. What else? What else? Okay. So I feel for me, it's more of the space thing. So having my more space to myself.
And do you have any tips for other moms who have maybe the same issue? How did you find the space for yourself within this situation?
Okay, so I decided that I would go out and walk and be in nature or go out for the day and be, you know, by myself. The days where he went to his friends or something, I would take opportunity to empty that day and be with me, myself. So I find a lot of space in nature when I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking, when I'm outdoors. Also, I also shifted my perspective because sometimes we just need to tweak at how we're looking at this so we can
Mm-hmm.
change the way we feel, you know? So rather than focusing on, oh, I haven't got enough space or where's my space, I now focus on he's happier, he's more independent, and this is temporary. It's not going to be forever. There comes a time where all children, all kids, like we did, we fly away, we go on our own journey. And so I see this as a foundation for him to grow more independent and become more self-led in the world.
Yes, thank you. This is also so beautiful.
Yes.
But you're also having your own business, right? So this is another aspect.
Yes.
How does that fit into your daily life? Plus your son being at home, plus you and your need of your alone time, and probably other
Yes.
needs as
So
well too.
yes. So it's interesting because the online business started around the same time we started homeschooling. So
Mm,
we had the two big things come together.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a way of doing things. So the way I do things is I get things done in the morning time is where I find the space for myself. So I'm an early riser. I rise early and I meditate every day. I do my yoga, my pranayama. I'm pretty much been in that space for a long time now. And in a way, when we meditate, it's a very inward experience. And so all the space that you desire is actually within.
Mm.
And the more I connect to that, the more it keeps me stable. One other thing that I have accepted is that I'm not going to go as, at this point, I don't need to put pressure on myself to get everything done for the business, but I'm taking it in a way where it suits me, my timings, my flow, and my rhythm. What else? Now that he's a little bit older, I mean, he's 15. So sometimes what I do is I go and stay overnight somewhere just for one night. And it's very near, so it's very local. My neighbors know, he's got his phone with him. So it's done in a safe way where I know that he's got the guidance and support if he needs it. But I go and stay somewhere for one night and it's very near. And that for me just brings this, I'm back to myself again. It could
Mm-hmm.
be just a simple, like a bed and breakfast room in
Mm-hmm.
nature. I have my meal, I go for a little walk, I do a little mask, a little bath, like a bubble bath, whatever, and fresh. So that is my sort of other input. Obviously, I wasn't
Mm.
able to do that 2 years ago because I didn't feel ready to do that. But now I feel like, he's got this. He's old enough, and I've got the support of the neighbours if required. So, yeah.
Well, and I can imagine that you really, really not only longed for this, but most of all deserved this, to have this after such a long period of time being a single mom, right? And
Yes. Yes.
never probably had the chance to do this in the last 10 years, 15 years, even more
Oh,
probably.
actually, it's interesting you say that. In my experience, I've had a lot of support from my
Mm.
family when I first became a single mom, and I somehow navigated it with, I had support of really, really good family members, close friends. So I have been to a lot of places on my own,
Oh,
like, and had
that's
that,
cool.
yes. Yes, so I've had a great balance with that. I've been very fortunate. But yes, it's very important I believe, for mum to have time away from and to forget that she's a mum.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Even if it's a one night stay, 2 night, however, whatever is required, I believe it refreshes the relationship. So, I used to go on weekend retreats, like meditation and yoga retreats. I then went on a 3 months training, residential training in France, where I
Mm-hmm.
left the kids behind with my parents and my brother. I had lots of support, but I was away for 3 months. And,
Wow.
the amount, yes. So the amount, and I did get a lot of judgment. It's like, you can't leave your sons, you can't leave them behind. You're a single mom, you can't, they'll feel abandoned and this and that. In my experience, I mean, we were having calls on Skype a couple of times a week, but when I got back, our relationship with the children, with my boys, deepened, it became
Mm-hmm.
stronger, and it added to their personality.
Yeah.
So for them, it was like, oh, mum's I didn't abandon them. I was energetically always there with them. So it's it's interesting how we have all these different opinions and
Mm-hmm.
projections,
Mm-hmm.
So for me, yes, yeah, for me, it's been I've been fortunate to have that balance where I've been able to spend time away from them. But yes, when I've had been through a period where that didn't happen. So for about a year, I didn't go anywhere. So, and now I can like go for an overnight because he's older. So there are ways around it. I
Mm.
believe we need to, if we want to do something and it feels right for us and our family, we just create the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing a lot what you're saying is about trust and also faith, right? I mean,
Yes.
trust into um, your relationship, that this is something that's stable enough, regardless of space and time, and um,
Yes. Yes.
and faith is something I find really, really important when I think of well, raising children in general, but especially
Brilliant. I love that.
I mean, for life, for everything, right? I mean, we need faith.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
um, but especially if we step and you what I'm hearing from your experience, even though in the UK it's even more common than in Austria, but still I'm hearing that is for you it was an unknown path, stepping out of school and doing it
Yeah.
differently and your own way, and this always has insecurities. If you've never seen it like anything like that, and you don't have experiences with it, you have to you have to step into the unknown, and you need to rely on something like faith. Otherwise you can't do
Yes.
it. And
Yes.
and I feel that since because you said you now mentioned a few different occasions where your relationship to your son was strengthened, like this going away for one thing, or also like taking him out from school also strengthened your relationship. And this is something I do experience from the past 6 years of my son not being in school, where I feel the two of us, we develop, or the three of us, he and his father as well, um, develop a relationship to him where he also sees that there is a huge amount of trust in him and faith in life for us to take the chance for a path like this, because it's not common.
Yes.
And he sees that it's not common as well, so he sees that this is something special we're doing with him, and he feels this special energy around it. And when you have school, I think this is something very interesting, because it seems to be kind of common that we as parents, once the kid goes to school, we kind of leave the responsibility, at least partly, to school. And once you don't have
Yeah.
this institution anymore, it's really fully on you. And
Hmm.
then the
Hmm.
child, I think it's easier for the child to experience what this even means, responsibility over education of a child. It's more,
Yes.
it's closer. It's more. He can feel it more. It's more reliable, than than having an institution
Yeah.
holding this kind of responsibility. And the question to me raises anyway: can an institution even hold really, in truth, a responsibility like that. I mean, they can try and they can do their best, and like parents as well, they can also fail, you know. But still, my point where I want to go with this is, I observe for the child, it's more tangible, even though it's not tangible, but it's more reliable, more feelable, more. They get more in contact with what this even means. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And they get to see that from the two most important people, like, that are close to them, which is their mum and dad. And so, yes, I mean, the institutions, the school system does it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we do it differently at home, you know. So I would say, I mean, I don't know a great depth about this particularly, but what I can say from my experience in the past, coming up to 2 years, is that I have seen my son take a lot more responsibility than he did when he was in school.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying school was all bad and he didn't get anything from it, and I can't say that. But what I would say is that I'm seeing a child that's taking, like I said, he's doing his homework, he's showing up for the tutor, and there's no problem. Whereas before, it's always a chore, he doesn't want to do it, and it felt forced. And when something feels forced and like a chore, it's like it doesn't quite feel right, does it? So I believe he's taken that responsibility now himself, because he knows that this is the pathway that he wants and this is what is required. Because, you know, when we want something, we obviously need to take responsibility for it, don't we? And sometimes there can be things that don't feel as good, like, you know, taking an exam, for an example. He's not like over the moon because he's going to sit and do this functional maths exam, and he's not saying, yeah, yes, I'm looking forward to this. But at the same time, because he's got that perspective that he has come to his own conclusion with it, which is taking responsibility. Well, responsibility, when you break the word down, it's our ability to respond to things. So his ability to respond to his vision of what he wants to do and become in the future has been, oh, I don't want to do this exam. It's not been like that, but now it's like, okay, so, you know, I don't really enjoy this, but it's temporary. So I'm going to focus, put my head down, get it done with. Once it's done, it's done. And it's going to align me with my, you know, bring me more closer to what I want. So yes, so if you were to ask me, do you feel like your son has a greater sense of responsibility since he's been in homeschool environment? I would say yes. I mean, he's learned how to cook several meals. He's a great cook. He does his laundry. He changes his bed sheets. He cleans his room. I don't get involved. You know, I do cook a lot. I love food. It's part of my work. You know, what I do, I create recipes, etc. But he's more, you know, he goes to the shop. He buys himself whatever he needs to buy himself. I would say, yeah, he's not only learned responsibilities of the pathway, but also self-help skills. You know, if you don't know how to cook yourself a healthy meal or do your laundry, the basic things, they're important.
Sure, yeah. And this brings me to another topic, since your son is a teenager. And I'm also hearing from a lot of teenagers that they really need more sleep, and they love to sleep in the morning, and love to create their own rhythm throughout the day.
Oh no!
Okay, I think this was it. This is funny now. It seems like the phone battery went off anyway. So yeah, we already talked more than 45 minutes, 50 minutes. I'm waiting a little bit. Maybe Azra still comes back on. Everyone everyone who is in here, thank you for watching. Do you have any questions to me or to Azra? Oh, thank you for the hearts. If you have any more questions, please ask. And now I see if I can get her in again. Azra. Okay. Yeah, this was a very, very interesting talk. I loved it. I loved to get into those perspective of how home education, how the situation of home education is in the UK. And I found it also very interesting that there is no exam required. Sorry, I got disrupted from a question. Hey, Sarah, lovely. Till what grade is homeschooling possible in Austria? Well, homeschooling, as long as you're willing to do a yearly exam, and the exam is like on the curriculum of the official school grade, you can do any grade in Austria as homeschooling. But you need to pass a test on the curriculum, and this is the big difference on what I was hearing now to the UK, because in the UK, Azra told us that she needs to write a report what her son and she did the past year, and they are not necessarily required to fulfill a given curriculum. This is a huge difference as far as I see that. So I hope the question is answered. Sarah, let me know if you need to know anything else. Are you from the UK? Azra is coming back. She's coming back. We have another 7 minutes. But it's yeah, it's coming. Yes.
My switched on. Just randomly, it just turned off. So I'm back.
So cool. Yeah.
So yes,
we were
the sleep. That's the question.
Yeah. And the self-led rhythm of the day as well. From a teenager, like in the age of 15. I mean, they love to sleep and they love to have their own rhythms usually. How is this with your son?
Yes, so this is actually very near and dear to my heart. I'm actually really glad you asked this question, because it was another thing that I mean, lockdown had its downsides, but it came with so many other benefits. Like, I read books and looked at different things because I had so much time. But when my son's like hormones started changing, and in the mornings it was like, you need to wake up, the school bus is coming, this, that, and the other. And so I actually read a few books around the teenager brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite a revelation because I didn't know any, my parents didn't know any of this. But what happens is that the time of the melatonin and dopamine production changes. And so this is why they need more sleep, because the brain is sprouting, isn't it? It's developing. Lots is going on. And the time of the sleep hormone is changing. That's why they tend to go to bed later and wake up later. And so he would always be grumpy in the mornings, and I would often question, how much is he really taking in the morning lessons? And so they do have a natural rhythm, and the school times go completely against that, if you want to call it. I mean, of course, going to bed early and waking up early is wonderful, but there is something happening to the teenager brain that is out of our control. And no matter how early they go to bed, my son used to say to me, even if I went to bed at 9, I don't sleep until 11:30. And then, of course, they want to sleep longer in the morning. And so so he sleeps in now.
Mm-hmm.
He wakes up when he wants to wake up. And I don't interfere with that. He knows his schedule. He knows what he needs to do. We have deliberately arranged the tutor's lunchtime onwards. I did that deliberately because I feel like if he gets a good sleep, he's going to be more focused. He's going to get more done. So he finishes with his tutor and he does his homework straight after that. He's got it done. And so, yes, the sleep cycle of a teenager is different to an adult and to a child that's a lot younger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Azra, this was so beautiful talking to you. Thank you for all those insights you're sharing and your wisdom. And I loved our conversation and our talk. Is there anything you want to close our talk and you want to share or say at the end?
Yes. Well, I mean, what would I say? Follow the heart. Follow your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for a long time, I've been on this journey of personal development and, self-discovery and health and vitality and all of these things. But even so, I sent my son to school because that's what I thought I needed to do. But when things changed and I started looking at things differently and I was observing him, my heart started saying different things and my intuition started saying different things. And also, trust the child's intuition as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know what they want.
Absolutely.
They know what they want. And even if it's not the right thing forever, sometimes we need to do things,
mm-hmm.
and then we change and something else comes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the heart, I believe, the heart and the intuition of the parents and the mums and cultivating that in the child so they listen to their intuition.
Mm-hmm.
and heart.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's so needed in today's world.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there is not much different between an adult and a child or a young teenager or whatever, right? I mean, this works the same in all ages, I find, at least.
Yes. Yeah. So do whatever feels right for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do whatever feels right for us and for you. And this is a beautiful finishing sentence. Thank you for that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And thank you. It's been a great conversation. I loved sharing my journey, and yeah, it's been great. I
Mm,
loved it. Thank you
mm.
so much.
Thank you. Oh, best
Thank you.
greetings. Cheers to the UK. Bye.
Bye.